Blender for Noobs.
Hello, this is Dan Nobles and welcome to Blender for Noobs and welcome to this tutorial on designing a real-world object. The reason that I decided to do this tutorial is I thought it might be helpful to some people out there. I run into the issue where when I try to design something to the real world, like a house plan or something like that, I run into a lot of weird little things and I kind of had to muddle my way through it. So I'm going to show you a few simple things that if you keep them in mind, you shouldn't have any problem, or at least not as much problem as I had. So what I'm going to do to start off, I'm just going to do a Shift A and go to Mesh, and I'm just going to create a plane. I'm just going to do a test object here so I can kind of show what I'm doing. So I'm going to tab into Edit Mode, and I'm just going to B-box select these two verts, and I'm just going to move these out 2 units right here. So I'm going to go GX2, Enter on the keyboard. And basically what I've done is I've extended this out 2 of these Blender units. Right now I have it set to meters actually, but if you don't have that set, then they are considered Blender units. Next, I'm going to do a Control-R edge loop, and I'm just going to put it right in the middle there by clicking twice, so that leaves that there. And then I'm going to select these 2 verts. I'm going to choose extrude and just click right off of that, select right off of it, and do a, let's see, G, Y, -2 to move it the same number of units down. Okay, so now we've just created this, simple plane object. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, so say we had a flat drawing reference picture and we wanted to create a 3D model of this picture. And let's say that these sides are 12, let's say 12 centimeters. So it'd be something like, so something like that. And it really doesn't matter how complex the drawing is or what you're doing. What matters here is looking at the dimensions. So we want this to be actual created or modeled to scale. So what I'm going to do is tab into object mode. So how do we create something to scale? Well, the first thing that you want to do is you want to come over to your scene settings here, click on that, and look at your units. Now, by default, it's set at none, and that's going to be basically what you see here. These squares here are Blender units. So when I set it, told it to move over 2 units to on the x-axis and the y-axis, that's really just Blender units if I have none set here. So depending on what you want to do, you can do metric or imperial. I'm going to choose metric. And you want to leave your scale 1 there. And so I'm going to redo this. I'm going to say, okay, I want this object 12 by 12 centimeters. So let me erase this here. And I'm just going to X delete this. Let me create another plane, Shift A, Mesh Plane. And then I'm going to go to my End Property Shelf, and I'm going to look at the dimensions here. Now, right now, it's 2 meters by 2 meters by default. 0 meters for the Z, of course, because it's a plane. There's no thickness to it, or depth, whatever you want to call it. So, very easy way to do this is you just go to your X, and I'm going to put in 12 centimeters by 12 centimeters. Okay, so as you can see, it shrunk down quite a bit, and this is where we have our centimeters here. And you notice the view change from meters to centimeters as we go down, and now these boxes really represent each a centimeter. So then you can go along, modeling your object if you want to do something like, tab in edit mode, Control R, put a cut there, Control R, put a cut there, and then go to face and delete that face, and bam, we got it. So that's all good and everything, but you'll notice that when I took this plane and I added to it, let me go back to tab to object mode, you'll see that my scale has changed. The Z is okay because we didn't change the Z, but the X and Y are now 0.060, which is not going to work if you're doing actual to scale modeling. So an easy way to fix this, you can come in here and just change these 2 to 1, and that will fix your scale. Or you can come down here to object and you can go to the apply menu and you can set it to scale here, apply your scale. Or an even easier way is do Control A. That'll bring up your apply menu right there. and then you can click scale. Now, little tip, what I normally do is I choose rotation and scale, because I find a lot that for whatever reason I'm rotating an object or I've messed up the rotation. So if you look up rotation here, it's some weird degrees and it should, it shouldn't be. So I just do a Control A and do rotation and scale. And you'll notice that these scales have all returned to 1. It's still 12 centimeters by 12 centimeters, which is exactly what we want. Now, the reason that the scale gets screwed up, and this used to drive me nuts because I didn't really understand it, but it gets screwed up because I'm doing something in, I'm resizing in object mode. So if I do this, start scaling up, you can see that my scale on the right is just getting all screwed up. But if I tab into edit mode here, and let's just take some vertices here, grab these. Now we can't see the scale yet, but let's say that I change this, tab back in object mode, and you can see the scale is exactly the way it was. Now you can see that I've changed the length of the X, which is fine, but we've kept the scale. So whenever you can get away with it, you want to do your edits in edit mode. But of course, that's not always possible. If you need to resize your entire object, just remember if you're in object mode, you need to do the Control A and apply your rotation and scale again. Another quick tip on this, this is a very, very simple example, but say once you get into, say you're doing a house and you're looking at the distance of the opening of a door or something. So what you can do is tab into edit mode, and let's just say that this area right here was your doorway and you wanted it to be a certain distance, but you weren't sure what the distance was between those 2 points. You can come over here to your end menu and come down here to where it says edge info, and then you can check length here. And as soon as you do that, anything you have selected, it'll show you what it is. So in this case, this area right here is 6 centimeters. And then if you start, selecting everything, you'll start seeing that, yeah, we have all these dimensions showing up, which is really nice. You also have some other things here, such as area, angle. I mostly use the length. I think I've used angle a few times, but it's really helpful to be able to see that. And then you can turn it off. Another little nice feature that Blender has that'll help you out when you're doing things like this is if you close the end menu, I'm going to choose T for tools, go to your tools menu and go down to where you have the grease pencil, and you'll see this under tools, you'll see ruler protractor. Now this is a nice little tool where if you zoom into some area you want to measure, just grab it, start at one point and just pull it across. And as you pull it across, you can see that it is doing your calculations for you, which is really nice. I'm just going to escape out of that. So that's a nice little tool to have handy when you're measuring parts of your model there. So that's pretty much it. I mean, that's the basic things that you need to remember in order to do a real world drawing. I'm sure that others of you that have done, worked models to scale might have some tips and tricks to add. So please add them in the comments. There is one other thing that I'm going to add, and that is sometimes when I've done some to scale models and I've exported them into another format, there's no guarantee that when they come over to the other format, they retain their real world size. Some of them do. Some of them have a problem with exporting and keeping that data. But the good news is if you're modeling to scale, everything in your overall model will be relative to scale. So once it's over to that, other 3D package, then just resizing it in that package to scale should be enough. So I hope you enjoyed this quick tip tutorial, and I'll see you in the next video.